Essentially what all of us as organizations try to do is try and ensure that the way in which government raises and spends its money is more transparent, and that opportunities are created throughout the process of the government producing the budget for citizens to monitor and influence that process.
And people have the right to information in general. This is the people's money. And that very basic notion is at the core of all this. People have the right to know.
When we start looking at budgets, there are two reactions. People are afraid, oh my God, budgets? How can we ask about money? But also there is another reaction, which is a lot of excitement. This can open a lot of possibilities for us.
Our first step into this field was to realize that if we wanted to make a difference to budget transparency around the world, the first thing that we needed was a very good, solid, objective database on how well or poorly countries perform on budget transparency.
We decided that there was a need for a global research and advocacy project called the Open Budget Survey. And over an 18-month period, in 94 countries around the world, 300 researchers, experts on budget transparency, are completing 123 questions for each country, which yields approximately 11,500 observations. And this requires approximately 25,000 person-hours of time.
So the survey is initially filled out by our researchers, so some independent civil society in a given country.
My task is to make sure that the questionnaires are edited properly, making sure there's no inconsistency between countries.
And then those come back to the IBP, and then there's a refereeing process.
And go back and forth until we make sure that we've really got the details right.
In ensuring that the results meet the rigorous standards that we have set for ourselves.
Information from the Open Budget Survey is then used to create the Open Budget Index. Countries will be ranked on how open and transparent their budget process is.
A survey which is providing very direct feedback from civil society resident in each of the 94 countries that we cover, directly to their governments, and from IBP directly to a set of international institutions.
This is a way to achieve democracy. It gives us the challenge of how to do it. How is it that we can participate in managing our own country?
In the majority of developing countries, the budget is the only way that citizens are able to receive any form of social services.
I'm a Pakistani national. 20 million people who are suffering the aftermath of the flood, they are the ones who are having to pay the price because of the lack of transparency in management of public funds in Pakistan. Many donors are not contributing to the flood relief because there's just this perception that either those funds will not be used for the flood relief or they will be mismanagement. It is one thing to look at Pakistan's score on the Open Budget Index in a database, and it's another to see people moving around their demolished houses, staying in camps, seeing flooded streets and flooded towns with little assistance for them to survive.
This needs to become known, widely recognized as the global issue. This is the most important first step to take if you're concerned about poverty, inequality, and governance.
So our survey is an opportunity to be able to document how transparent and willing governments are to share information and, in a sense, their power with the people. Because the moment they are giving this information out to the people, the information is being used. And we've seen this, we've documented these stories of how people, and especially people who get organized, civil society organizations, are using information, small bits of information, to hold government to account and to ensure that programs that are meant to support the needs of the poor are actually going towards those needs. And when that's not happening, they raise their voices and they question governments. And this time they are questioning governments not just rhetorically, not just shouting or screaming out there, but they're doing that with evidence. And that's the power of the work that we're doing. We are giving people an opportunity to use information generated by the government to hold government to account.